0.39 has improved the BeamNG AI, but by how much? Is the AI now at a stage we can confidently use it and drive around worry-free, or does it still have a long way to go? Today we're going to look at a mixture of aspects to give us a definitive answer. Is BeamNG's AI finally smart? We will cover 3 sections today. Section 1, clarifications and feedback from the last video, which you can feel free to watch after this. It'll also be linked on the end screens. Section 2, changes within the patch notes, and finally, section 3, does the AI actually work better and fix the main issues that we established? This section won't just repeat what the first video said, however I will quickly summarise the main ones for simplicity, although if you just came from the last video, feel free to skip to the timestamp on screen to avoid the summary. 1. The AI not using indicators about half the time. 2. Every AI car stopping for ages at every stop sign and give way sign. 3. Lack of collision avoidance, just stopping and not trying to get past, most noticeable on narrow country roads. And finally, the random lane changes. However, I also mentioned features I wish BeamNG had, such as 1. Random police chases amongst AI. 2. Less traffic density on backside roads, especially dirt tracks, as way too many cars were on them. 3. The AI collision avoidance, as they were quite bad for just crashing into each other. Finally, I wish BeamNG had random events, which we had quite an interesting breakthrough in. Those are the main features I mentioned in my video, however you guys also mentioned a few points, so now we're all caught back up to speed, I'd like to address a few. DogMC4827 said the next update is going to be AI getting revamped, and well, we're going to talk about that later. And then second, Skyfall gave this absolute yapathon, and he isn't the only person to mention this, he just got the most likes on his comment. However, as he does describe it very well, so feel free to pause and read it. However, in summary, random AI police chases do occasionally happen, however they were not exactly intentional, it was more coincidental that the AI would hit a police car and begin a chase. And that leads me to a DM I got after the video from Filman86. He sent a screenshot of some code showing an option for enabling random events set to false, which is very interesting. This was back in 0.38, however I find it interesting that I mentioned this in a video and it turns out there was actually code for it in the game files. This is one thing I very briefly touched on in the last video, however the AI had a very bad habit of just stopping at hazards or not responding at all. Never mind realistically. There are a few comments about this, since it is true how silly it could be. This is probably the second most commented thing on the entire video, and I have no idea how I did not think to talk about this, as it is so true. Since the AI spawns across every lane in BeamNG, you could be cruising in the fast lane when a new box truck spawns in and causes you to have to slam on your brakes, or even worse, on single lane roads where you can't even change lanes to avoid them. Now, an honourable mention to the hundreds of you saying this is just how people drive in real life. As I mentioned in the video, although yes, there are very stupid drivers out there, I have experienced many of them. However, not every driver is as clueless as the BeamNG AI. Some are, but not all by any means. Now, with all this information cleared up, let's move into section 2 and talk about what has changed according to the patch notes. What have the devs actually changed in 0.39? I'll summarise the key patch notes here and then go into a few exciting ones that I'd like to get more in depth with. Generally improved the road nav graph, increasing traffic flow, optimised traffic and memory, allowing it to run a bit better by doing some very confusing stuff, improved the traffic throttle logic based on traction, fixed under bridge awareness, allowing vehicles to drive normally under bridges, plan node spawning fixes, meaning they no longer spawn across the map, some general optimizations on the AI, and then finally fixed some issues with AI not recognising parked cars. However, as for the key parts I'd like to delve into, probably the biggest overall change was the update to how you can view and change AI traffic settings, now having its own place in the UI, showing you how many of each traffic type is spawned in, from normal, parked or police. As well as this, the game is now capable of spawning the amount of AI cars that it'll think will likely work well with your system specs. As well as this, one comment I got once or twice was about how they wish they seen some custom cars cutting up through the traffic, and there has been a step taken in the right direction with this. The devs gave the AI a chance to spawn in with a vanity plate, like this one. Now, as someone in my Discord regularly complains about, the fact that you find random ETK I-series on some awful rock trail, well, the devs have raised the quality of road required for AI to drive on it, reducing the amount of traffic on these really difficult roads. Now this next part is probably the craziest coincidence ever, and it absolutely made my day. Over half of the mentioned AI fixes in this update were things I complained about in the last video several months ago. However, However, just before I continue, please do consider subscribing to make sure the devs see my future videos, and let me know in the comments, do you think they watched it or is it just a coincidence? Now onto the changes I complained about. Number 1. Traffic vehicles will now try to pass each other while driving opposite ways on narrow roads. This was a big one, as I'd regularly get stuck sat on country roads as two oncoming cars got too confused with each other, but just to be awkward, they would drive up as close as they possibly could to make it impossible for me to drive past them, leaving you stuck and your immersion broken. However, now the devs claim that it is fixed, although we will test it later, but I sure hope it works the way it should, as this was genuinely one of the most annoying things. Fixed bug where police chase random events would fail to happen at all. As I mentioned earlier, as well as in the previous video, how AI police chases would never naturally occur, and only happen due to very specific circumstances. Well, the devs now say that they have fixed this. It'd be very interesting to dig into this later and hopefully see some more life in the street. Now, number 3, improve waiting time at intersections, and number 4, improved AI intersection handling. Both of these made up one of my biggest complaints about how Belasco was nearly impossible to drive in due to stupid AI, as well as them never using their indicators. And well, both of them have been fixed. In summary, what this does is improve the AI detection of stop signs and give way signs. As I previously learned, the give way signs in BeamNG are often treated and viewed as stop signs by the AI. However, that should now be fixed. Then I also mentioned indicators. Well, now AI indicator activation and deactivation should be fixed, allowing you to actually know where the AI is going. Then finally, and one I am genuinely so happy about, is the fix to the stop sign behaviour. Previously in Belasco, if you came up to a stop sign, every car would stop for a few seconds, then go and repeat, meaning you'd be trapped there for about 30 seconds. However, the devs have worked some magic, meaning the vehicles now work through these situations quicker, due to some very complicated logic. Well, at least they should. 5. Improved vehicle awareness. This should help drastically improve the consistent and easily avoidable AI collisions, allowing them to more accurately predict the location of different vehicles and therefore use that to avoid collisions, or at least do a better job than before. Now we know what the devs have claimed to fix. However, what about in practice? Well, to answer that question, I'm going to try something I've never done in a Fourhua video essay, or any modern day Fourhua video for that fact. I'm going to go get my surveying car out of the garage and drive around some places to test the AI and see if it has actually been fixed. So over to live commentary Fourhua. The eagle-eyed amongst you will have already noticed that a lot of what I'm discussing here has already been shown in some of the clips throughout this video. I've not been talking about them or mentioning them, but the eagle-eyed will have noticed that these things have been happening. So a lot of these things I'll kind of gloss over because we've already seen how well it works. But however, in Belasco City to begin with, I'm mostly looking for the police chases and improved traffic intersections. However, I have already seen, and you've seen the clips, to see that the improved intersections do indeed work. There's currently a bug inside BeamNG which makes it so that police will not spawn with the traffic, even if you select the police traffic, so that means it's actually impossible to test it. However, I believe the devs are working on a fix for this, and it very likely could be fixed by the time this video releases. Since we've already covered most of the things in Belasco, I say we fly off to Italy. So after a safe arrival in Italy, we came here to check if AI is actually better at avoiding other cars on small little country roads. It's a thing that I've already noticed in a few of the clips I've taken, although it could just be a coincidence that the AI was swerving out of the way. However, I find that very unlikely. Like, I'm sure that it must try to avoid me. I mean, maybe sometimes. I think it's like one of those things, like in real life, it depends on the reaction speed of the driver. Sometimes the AI will be able to quickly like swerve away from you, and other times it won't. Surprise attack. That guy definitely swerved to avoid me. He was also definitely speeding in the town. That's another interesting observation, that the AI is capable of speeding. So I think we can say that sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, but I suppose that can go for everything. So with that, let's fly out back to America and head into Utah. Here we are in cloudy Utah. And here we're going to test out if there's actually less AI on the little dirt roads where there really shouldn't be cars. I'll head down this little track because I know it leads into some water crossings, because we should not be seeing any little ATKI series down here. However, I do see a car, However, is it going to attempt the crossing? Kind of realistic, like there is some people that would need to head down these roads for whatever reason. Maybe it's for work, maybe it's for anything else. And as well, it does appear that there is significantly less traffic density. Like, I only seen one car on that little dirt road. Normally you would see about the same amount you'd see on a road like that one behind me. On that note, I say we head to Jungle Rock Island to test the final thing today. Here we are, the final destination, Jungle Rock Island. Here we're going to see if the AI's collision avoidance is better, and it's actually better avoiding things that just get stuck on the road. For example, me. Okay, so I've gave the car enough room so that it can drive round me. There's currently quite a long line of traffic. Yeah, I don't think it's going to drive round me. Although before, an interesting observation I made, this was off camera when I was setting up some of the footage, I did actually notice some of the AI cars driving around some props that I set up. It didn't slow down, it just went straight down on the highway, changed lanes, went round it, and then changed lanes again. I'm guessing it's dependent on like if it's a stationary hazard been there for a while or something, or if it is just the player vehicle, because I suppose if it is the player vehicle, it could get annoying if you're constantly stopping and starting and the AI always overtakes you, although that would be a bit more realistic. I've also noticed the AI seems to honk a lot more. Then one of the biggest things I've noticed across this entire expedition is that I've not had the issue of AI spawning in stationary in front of me. I've not once had to slam on the brakes. Anyways, that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you're currently enjoying a song sent in by somebody in my Discord, which you can join from the link down below. Also, on screen is the first part where I talk about all the issues with AI.